The pencil tool lets you draw lines in GIMP. It's one of the drawing tools. It's very similar to the paintbrush tool, but it gives you a much harder edge along the edge of the line, so you won't have, it doesn't blend as well, but it gives you a nice crisp edge. Sometimes that's what you're going for. Let's take a look at how it works. Like the other drawing tools, you've got the mode here, and these different modes will basically affect how what you are adding to the image is interacting with what is already part of the image. I'm not going to get into how they all work. For now, we're just going to leave it in normal, but I recommend you playing around with it. It can really help make what you're adding blend with your image right from the beginning. In normal mode, you're basically not going to let the pre-existing image affect what you're drawing at all. It's just going to draw completely independently of it and on top of it. So now we've got that. We've got our foreground selected with this purple color. We've got the opacity slider, which allows us to set the opacity of what we're drawing. If it's at 100%, it will be a solid line. And if we set it down to a little bit lower, you'll be able to see through it. It'll be semi-transparent, so if I draw over this, you can see part of the object behind it. We'll put that back up to 100 for now. We've got the brush option. This allows you to select a brush. There's a number of preloaded brushes that come with GIMP. You can also build your own. If you come down here, you can click on the Open Brush selection, and that'll open your brush selection. In this case, it's over here. I could have just clicked on this tab. Once you're in here, you can right-click and actually build a new brush with the brush editor, and now you can use these parameters here to build a custom brush. In this case, we'll just stick with this circle brush here. We've got the size, which determines how big it is. This is obviously very big. We can turn it down, and it will be quite small. Okay. We've also got the aspect ratio. Let's turn the size up a little bit. The aspect ratio, so in this brush is a circle, but if we change the aspect ratio, we can make it more of an oval. And then we can change the angle. If we don't want it horizontal, we can have it at an angle. We've also got these buttons next to these sliders that reset them to their default values, which can be handy. And let's take a look at what else. We've got the dynamics. This is true for a number of tools. The dynamics is a way to allow what you're drawing to be affected by how you're drawing it. A number of these dynamic options are only available if you're using a stylus on a tablet, but some of them can be used with the mouse. So you can simply select what dynamic presets you want. Right now it's set to off, but I can go up here. I've been playing with this one. I called it my din. And if I want, I can go over and click on the edit button, and we can see exactly what those dynamics are. So you've got these different qualities of the final line on this in this list here, and then you've got sort of the methods that would affect them. So pressure is obviously something we can't do with a mouse, but velocity and direction and things like that we can. So in this case, with my dynamics, the color is affected by the velocity, and we've got the size is affected by the fade, which is something I will show you in a moment. So I can close this for now. We'll leave it that on, and then we've got some more dynamics options. So I said that, actually let's open that back up. So I said that the color was affected by the velocity. Well, it's going to also need me to tell it what color to use. So down here in the options, we've got a color options where we can set a gradient. So in this case, depending on how fast I draw, it will determine where on the gradient it draws. So if I draw very slow, you'll see that it's this green color, and if I draw very quickly, it turns to, it gets over to the purple color. Now you'll notice that my lines are starting small and fading in, and this is the fade option at work. Using this, having this option selected enables this option down here in the dynamics options. So the fade option allows me to set the fade length. Right now it's 279 pixels. So when I start, it starts faded out, and after I've drawn 279 pixels, it is faded into its full size. So I can set this to whatever distance I want. I can set a repeat option if I want. I can use, say, a triangular wave, which will sort of fade in and out as I go. So it fades in, and then it fades back out. I can use the sawtooth option, which basically just repeats. So it will fade in, and once it's faded all the way in, it will reset back to the beginning and fade in again. So those are some options you can use. Now let's just let's turn off the dynamics for now. I'll just set it to dynamics off. We've got a couple more options to go over. We've got apply jitter here. This is basically sort of a randomness introduced into your line. So if I've got this off, I draw sort of a straight line. If I apply a jitter, it will sort of make it bumpy. I'm not doing that with the mouse, but it's being applied automatically. I can turn this up quite a bit, and it will be even more dramatic. And if you turn it way up, it will be almost not even a line, just a series of dots. So that's the apply jitter option. Then we've got the smooth stroke option. This basically just helps you draw your lines a little bit smoother. So if you've got it off and you draw sort of a shaky line on the mouse, it comes out a shaky line on the screen. But if you've got the smooth stroke on and you sort of turn these sliders up, these sliders work very similar to one another. They work in conjunction with one another. So if we were to turn it way up, and I know you can't see this because it's a screencast, but I'm still shaking the mouse quite a bit, and you wind up with a pretty straight line. Of course, sometimes if you have it turned up too much, you won't be able to get the sort of subtle details you're trying to get in your curves. It'll smooth it out too much. But using a moderate amount can help make your mouse strokes a little bit smoother. And then finally, we've got the incremental option. So this affects the opacity. Normally, if you've got your opacity set, let's say, let's get this down to say 20%, and we draw over, no matter how many times I go over the line that I'm drawing, it will never change the opacity past 20% until I let go of the mouse and re-click, in which case it will darken it. But again, it will never get past that point. If I use incremental, however, it will start with that 20%, but as I go, it will just darken as I go over and over. So this mode is best used with a very low opacity, and then you can kind of just sort of draw over itself. So this is 1%, and as I go, you'll see that it sort of slowly fades in, and this is a way you can get a nice soft edge over sort of a strange shaped area. So those are the basics of the pencil tool. Like I said, it's very similar to the paintbrush, but it will give you a nice hard edge, even if, in this case, the brush appears to have a soft edge that is ignored when you're actually using it with the pencil tool.